But that's not what we're told. And the indication is that just as Abraham was being faithful to what God told him to do, Isaac was being faithful. Now, I don't know how faithful I could be if I saw my mom or dad, tying me up, lighting a fire, and coming down with a knife. That takes a lot of radical, extreme faith. And again, if you haven't heard God speaking to you, like God confirmed this 100% in your heart, it's not faith. It borders on stupidity to sacrifice your child or to lay there as your parent or someone who you love gets ready to, kill you. But if God is speaking to you, if you hear God speaking to you, and God has already performed miracles in your life, he's already done things in your life where this isn't what I read in a book, this isn't what my friends are telling me, this isn't what my dad is telling me, this is the God who showed up here when I needed him, showed up here when I needed him, and showed up here when I needed him. It's not stupidity. It's a radical act of faith in a God who has consistently been showing up in your life. This particular act wasn't Abraham sacrificing his son. It was Abraham worshiping God. Abraham did not intend for his son to be dead. Abraham intended that no matter what happens today, I'm going to do this as an act of worship, and me and my son are going to walk away even closer to God. And that's what happens when you take an extreme, radical step of faith. The idea isn't that you're scared, that you're afraid. The idea is you're putting your faith and trust in, again, a God who has consistently been showing up in your life and trusting in him. Because when God is present in your life, stepping out in radical faith is normal. It's the norm. It may look crazy to your friends who don't know God. It may look ridiculous to people that you work with who don't know about your relationship with God, but it's the everyday norm, because if you're serving a God who does miracles, then wouldn't you expect to see those miracles in your life? And they saw him walking on the lake. They were terrified. It's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." That word, take courage, literally means to be encouraged. It means you're supposed to be happy and joyful. Now, they're in the middle of a storm. From their perspective, their lives are already threatened. Here comes what they believe to be a ghost showing up. It's the middle of the night. They're scared. And Jesus says, be encouraged. Not because you're still in the storm, but because God showed up. And whenever God shows up in our life, it doesn't matter if the situation is resolved or not. It doesn't matter if the trouble has been fixed. When God shows up, we should be encouraged, not because the issue is done, but because God is now here. It doesn't matter if we've still got the disease. It doesn't matter if we still can't pay the bills. It doesn't matter if my child is still strung out on crack. God now has shown up and said, I'm here. I should be happy. Not because the situation's still around, but because God has now shown up. Everything's going to be okay. So they went from, hey, our daughter is talking about, ending her relationship with God and not caring about God and bringing home some strange teenage guy she's hanging out with. And they had to decide, what do we do? Do we take a leap of faith and trust that God is going to handle this? Or do we kick her out? Do we kick him out? And they decided we're going to take a leap of faith. And now this guy, Adam, grew up and is now in a position where he's telling other people about God's extreme, radical love, not because he read it in a book, because he experienced it from people who had no reason in the world to show it to him. And when he tells people, youth and the people that he's ministering to, about God's amazing love, it's because he's felt it and he experienced